Guess what I'm dressed up as? A content creator. But seriously, you know the drill at this point. We'll get into the review. It's Freak Show. That's why I'm wearing a clown thing. This isn't my normal hair. I'm gonna be upfront about this. Beyond the point system, Freak Show was my favorite after my initial reaction to all of these seasons. I thought that Freak Show had the smartest writing. Many people don't believe that. In fact, I've seen a whole lot of people say that this is their least favorite season. The characters are unique beyond their deformities and quirks. The Freak Troop could have been developed more, but that's, it's a lot of characters to balance. Most of them got development, and those who didn't at least got to give a little backstory when Edward Mordrake asked them about their past. But this method of exposition was kinda lazy. Don't get me wrong, I love Wes Bentley as Edward Mordrake, but his goals were muddled. I understand that he wanted to take a freak with him to his troop, but I would have liked to see his human side that would spare the lives of the freaks. His whole character was supposed to be that he was in constant conflict with the back of his head, but you don't see him putting up much of a fight. Maybe the characterization was that he had succumbed to his back head and forced himself to bend to its will, but I think this was just lazy writing that helped the writers blab about the other characters for a good chunk of time. I was also upset that Edward Mordrake took Twisty out of the picture so soon. They were the two most interesting characters for me, but they both felt content very early on and walked off into the sunset without a care in the world. I didn't understand Twisty's motive at all, by the way. Twisty's origin was not a sensible twist, and if a clown named Twisty cannot provide a good twist, then we truly do live in an orderless world. That's like saying I, Nicholas, can't provide any nickels. Ha! I certainly can. People say all the time, thanks for hooking me up with those nickels.
Boy, if I had a nickel for every time they said that.
I'd be a man of my word. I thought that the world building was exceptional this season. Many will argue that what happened under those tents didn't affect much into the AHS universe, but for me, this was the season where my mind made connections for the whole show. The show felt holistic. The audience gained a richer timeline for this reason, and now events in the show could be put into perspective. Sometimes I thought the freaks were written to be unbelievably overreactive. Heck, they form a kill circle at one point and beat two cops to death later, and in the end, when they find out Stanley was killing them off and selling them to a lady in a museum, the freaks decide to kill the buyer at the museum. That lady wasn't super complicit though. All she said was roughly, "If you find a dead freak, I wouldn't ask any questions." But I don't think that it was implied that she would be okay with their murder. I'm pretty sure she just meant that she would not ask if he had the proper legal paperwork to obtain the bodies. But the freaks had to go saw off her goddamn head. Like, calm down, guys. The writers went a little overboard in giving her her comeuppance. There was no irony or grace of it really either. They just cut off her fucking head because God forbid she curate a museum. The only crime there is that she might bore the tourists to death. I'm sorry I'm ranting about this, but my girl Lillian did not deserve this. The emotional scenes really hit hard for me. Sarah Paulson is such a good actress, and the fact that she can talk with nobody there at the moment but still feel the emotion of what she's saying, it's a testament to her talent. When Bette tells Dot that she'd get the surgery and die if it meant Dot could live a good life, I started bawling. I know there's a whole meme about how Sarah Paulson cries in a certain odd way, but damn, she could bring herself to those sad points just like that, and it brings me down right with her. The actors made their freakish qualities something that everybody could relate to or sympathize with. I was fully immersed, and I sometimes wanted to be there to comfort the characters. The only aspect of the acting that took me out of it were the accents. Kathy Bates and Jessica Lange both took on accents that I don't think sounded very well. Kathy Bates's accent was digestible, but Jessica Lange's fell apart whenever she went to sing. Typically, whenever someone of any background sings, their accent disappears because the syllables are stretched out, so Jessica Lange didn't really need to keep the accent with her song. It was unnecessary work, and it didn't sound too good. Especially since the song she was singing wasn't a German one. It was about as English as you can get. Whenever Kathy Bates' character Ethel sang, it was all operatic and the accent didn't detract from it at all because it wasn't there. I loved the acting dynamic between Gloria and Dandy Mott. While Dandy is a simple man-child psychopath, Gloria is a complex mother who cares about her morals and status, but also will do anything to protect her son. Frances Conroy's soft-spoken acting is a perfect complement to Dandy's blunt egotism. This season was very experimental, so the acting had to match up with the ambition of the story, and I believe it took a risk worth taking. I believe that this season had the strongest incorporation of actors. My older sister once told me that she thought Sarah Paulson looked too old to play these childish twins, but I looked it up and the wiki says that they're around 30, so personally, Bet and Dot are hands down my favorite characters this season. I can really distinguish Sarah as two different people. Bet and Dot are woman childs, if that's like the woman version of man child, I don't know if that's how I'm supposed to say it. And Sarah does a good job of showing their ineptitude and wonder through her use of an airy southern voice and biting her lip whilst giving puppy dog eyes. This season has 3 new cast members: Finn Wittrick, Wes Bentley, and Matt Bomer. It only makes sense that since the last season was filled with women cast members, that this season would introduce some more male cast members. I think the new members did an exceptional job. Finn Wittrick as Dandy Mott is definitely his best role in AHS. He's no Twisty, but he does spice up the season in an aggravating way. As I said, I love Wes Bentley, and the fact that he was even on this show is a merit in itself. I didn't expect Matt Bomer to return in Hotel because he just seemed like an extra in Freak Show. But boy was I wrong. Bomer's character Adrian helps develop Dell's character in a really pivotal scene where we find out that Dell is at a gay bar. Now that is a genius twist, and it's a hell of a way to introduce a new character. Overall, Dell is the glue that holds this season together, and it's Michael Chiklis' only role in this series, which he gives a good go at. He is the connection between the Darlings, Desiree, Stanley, Adrian, and even Harry frickin' Houdini. This role was integral to creating a convincing plot, and Chiklis perfectly captured the perpetual struggle that Dell faces to please everybody that revolves around him. So the writing was very obsessed with the idea of family and the bonds that have to be formed to get to that state.
I know all you ever wanted was a family. So you just remember, no matter how far away I am, I will always be your family.
You could do a whole psychoanalysis on this season and would turn up with a lot of answers. For example, Dell chose to form a relationship with 2 women who have masculine features because he's deep down attracted to those more butch features. Or another hot take, Twist, he doesn't have a mouth because every time he spoke in his earlier days, he would just be misunderstood and wasn't able to defend himself. So a lot of film theory could be applied to this season, and in that regard, it's a well-rounded season. In Asylum, I didn't really like Pepper in the beginning, but at the end of Asylum, when we learned she just wasn't some brainless, crazed person, I yearned for more of her. Well, we got that this season. Not only that, but Pepper is paired up with Salty, another pinhead who balances out her character. Pepper was always a loner because she was rejected by so many, and it made her out to be someone who craved to be isolated and thought of as a menace, but that wasn't true at all. The incorporation of Pepper and Salty showed that Pepper does have people she cares about. Pepper even gets a flashback to show the injustice against her, and this makes us sympathize with the freaks as a whole, because if it happened to Pepper, why couldn't it happen to any of the other freaks? Also, Pepper's return allowed Lily Rabe to return as Sister Mary Eunice, even if for a short while, but Sister Eunice is great as always, and the audience is provided with some more time to get to know Mary Eunice as the real person she was, and not purely the devilish version that took over Asylum towards the end. Finn Wittrick as Dandy Mott is a very good choice because, as the characters say in the show,
You may look like a motion picture dreamboat, but you are the biggest freak of them all.
he is very reformed and has curls at the front of his hair. Overall, he looks like a gentleman, but Finn Wittrick also captures the depravity behind the facade and how it acts as a way to fill the hole of boredom. I was a bit confused by the way Dandy acted towards the freaks. At first he said he loved them, because he was like one of them, but then he started treating them like his inferiors. Maybe the character acted this way to show that he had no underlying compass to navigate what he wanted in his life and what he didn't want. That could be it, but I thought the writing was generally good. Some of the supporting freaks could have gotten more screen time or at least more backstory. Literally, all I remember about Susie was that she stabbed a man because he had legs, and then she escaped to the freak show. I never really got to see her full personality, if she even has one, I don't know. Who knows? I didn't get to see it. I also gave no sympathy for Meep. God, I didn't like Meep. All I saw him do was bite off the heads of harmless animals, and then Jimmy cried about him for a couple of episodes, but I rolled my eyes every time. I know Meep was innocent, but the story didn't spend enough time investing in him, so the audience didn't care. The season also didn't give enough time for Ma Petite because the only personality we see from her is innocence, but she's supposed to be a grown woman with this condition, so I would have liked to see more depth in her character because that's how it would realistically be. Bet and Dot also get shafted for a bit, but it makes sense for the plot because they were taken by the Mots. It's not like the writers forgot about them, at least, because they dropped breadcrumbs of their presence at the Mott home, like when Paul questioned why Dandy was buying 2 of everything at the convenience store. The complaints I have with the screen time proportion this season are quite small, so I think they did a good job. The cinematography was very smart this season. The most genius thing about the cinematography was when Bet and Dot were filmed right near the edge of the screen to make it look like they're Siamese twins without having to use any of the special effects. Speaking of splitting things, the scene where Regina calls Gloria about her mother was filmed perfectly because it set up the split screen to reveal a bloodied up Dandy perfectly. Other cinematography decisions I loved were when the camera was at a high angle in the tents to show the majesty of the tent, and I also love how the toy shop murder scene was filmed. The camera tracked the blood as the guy's eyes followed it, and even though it was cheesy as hell, I thought the campiness worked very well with the showmanship attitude of the season. The set design this season was phenomenal. The arrangement of the tents and caravans was amazing. Comparatively to last season, this season felt like it had all the budget in the world. There were definitely digital effects in this season too. Last season the effects were more practical, but here we have whole characters who for a lot of scenes have digital touch-ups like Bet and Dot, and also Twisty's missing jaw. There's also more colorization and colors pop out vibrantly. If this category doesn't get a perfect score, then I don't know what will. This season featured 2 David Bowie songs and a Nirvana song. In this season, there are a lot of canon musical numbers, unlike season 2, where the musical number was all just like a dream sequence or a daydream or whatever. The musical numbers that the Freak Show performs are very peculiar. The songs that they sang were very modern for the time that they're trying to portray, which was a very odd choice that took me out of full immersion. I liked the theme for the credits and felt that it tapped well into the bizarre, off-color nature of the season. My favorite part of the music was a small sliver where Dot sang "Dream a Little Dream of Me." It was only about 15 seconds long, but the way the vocals came together, topped with Elsa's reaction, was just the perfect scene of raw discovery. It felt raw, and I just had to keep rewatching the clip because I loved the way I felt the first time watching it. The music and sounds were very watchable, but it didn't make a whole lot of tonal sense overall. The iconography is off the chain for this season. Every single design choice is a bold statement. Beyond the quirks of the freaks, the tents and the stage are extremely recognizable. This season is the most in-your-face out of all of them, but it does so in a non-annoying way. There's a lot of subtlety, yet it manages not to be forgettable. So good job. This season is the most intimately connected to Season 2. The season takes place during the 50s, and Season 2 takes place during the 60s. In some aspects of the story, this season acts as a sequel to Season 2. such as how Pepper leaves the freak show to join the asylum after a sinister plot set up by her sister and her sister's husband to frame her for the death of their baby. The season also frames Hans Gruber, or Arthur Arden, as the villainous guy that he was said to have been in asylum. AHS in just 4 seasons has covered many different flavors of history, and it actually made me more interested to pay attention in my history class. It was also largely because I had a really great teacher, but AHS helped.
Ba-ba-ba-bum.
Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Hey, we are nearing the end of these part 1 through 6 reviews of American Horror Story. And then finally we will be able to do so many other things. I'm going to have more reviews, I'm going to have skits, those are going to be fun. I'm going to have animations. As you can see, I dabbled with my green screen in this last video, so hopefully those can help out with the skits and I won't have to go outside much. I'm a bit of a hermit. I'm trying not to be, though. I hope you guys have an amazing day. Like and subscribe and hit the bell notification. My name's not showing up when people search my name on YouTube, so I hope I can change that, because I really want to get myself out there and I really have a lot to say. And I hope that you guys as my audience get something out of what I say. So with that being said, have a wonderful day. Bye, guys.